Hi friends, good evening. This is Dr. Harinath Reddy, Director Shankaran AI Study Circle. Today in this particular video, we will discuss about the tax revenues and the non-tax revenues in the state of Andhra Pradesh. If you see the economy paper in the APPSC Group 1 mains syllabus, in chapter 2, there is a reference to tax revenues and non-tax revenues. In chapter 5 deals with the government budgeting in Andhra Pradesh. So probably you can expect one question on government budgeting in Andhra Pradesh. Possibly the dimension could be what are the tax revenues and non-tax revenues of the state of Andhra Pradesh. So as a prospective Group 1 officer, you must also be aware and you must also be curious to know what is the revenue base of the state, where this revenue is coming from. So let's get started. Let's begin our discussion with the own tax revenue. Own tax revenue means, see, on the recommendations of the Central Finance Commission, the tax revenues of the central government are shared with the state governments. So in addition to what the state government gets revenue from tax as well as non-tax revenues on its own, each state government in India will also get a share from the central government tax revenues on the recommendations of the Central Finance Commission. So we were discussing here only the tax revenues of government of Andhra Pradesh and not the tax revenues which were devolved to the state from the central government. That we will discuss later on. So the own tax revenues of the state government. Here, if a question comes on tax revenues and non-tax revenues of Andhra Pradesh or budgeting in the state of Andhra Pradesh, the students must take the pain of remembering some facts. Remembering the facts, otherwise difficult to write answers. So here, if you make a rapid revision, many a times it's possible to remember the facts provided. If not to the last digit, roughly you can keep in your memory what is the revenue through the sales tax, through the state GST. Roughly you can keep in mind by revising multiple times so that you can write an answer in the exam. So if you see the own tax revenue, see the major taxes in the state of Andhra Pradesh through which revenue is generated. So the most important tax you can see on the screen is the sales tax. Sales tax. So earlier it is called VAT, value added tax. So in the year 2017-18, sales tax accounted for 25,335 crores. But if you see the total tax revenues of the state government in the year 17-18, it is 49,813 crores. So in other words, 50% of the tax revenues of the state government, they are coming from the sales tax. So 17-18, 25,000 crores roughly, and 2018-19, 21,000 crores, or roughly 22,000 crores, and 2019-20 revised estimates again 21,000 crores. So this is the most important tax in the state of Andhra Pradesh, sales tax, and it's a share in the tax revenues, and its a contribution in the total tax revenue of the state government is 21,000 crores roughly. And similarly, if you take state GST, you can clearly see a trend wherein the revenues through the state goods and services tax has increased over a period of time. In 2017-18, it was around 10,820 crores, roughly half of the sales tax. But now in 2018-19 and 2019-20 revised estimates, it's around 20,000 crores. So roughly equal to sales tax. State GST is almost close to sales tax. So sales tax followed by state GST. So sales tax around 21,000 crores. State GST around 20,000 crores. The next most important tax is a state excise. Excise is a tax which is levied on consumption of alcohol which is meant for human consumption. So here in 2017-18, it was around 5,460 crores. 18-19, 6,220 crores. 19-20 revised estimates, it is 6,915 crores. as of 2019-20 revised estimates, it is around 6,915 crores. Probably the share of state excise may come down in course of time. The reason being, the present government headed by Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy is trying to encourage the people to reduce their consumption of alcohol. So if the sale of alcohol comes down, the tax revenue from this source will also come down. But for the exam, you can remember it is roughly 7,000 crores. So the share from state excise is 7,000 crores. And the next most important tax is stamps and registration. So in the year 2017-18, stamps and registration 4,271 crores. And 2018-19 and the 19-20 revised estimates, it's close to around 5,300, 5,400 crores. So after sales tax, after state GST, after state excise, the next most important tax is stamps and registration, around 5,300 crores. Then the next most important tax is motor vehicle tax. Motor vehicle tax roughly 3,000 to 3,300 crores. If you see 2017-18 motor vehicle tax is 3,039 crores. In 18-19 it was 3,341 crores. In 19-20 revised estimates it was 3,279, roughly around 3,200 crores. Then other than these, the remaining taxes are very meager. They don't contribute much for tax revenue. You can see land revenue very little, around 21 crores in 2019-20 revised estimates. Then professional tax, it's hardly 246 crores. And then electricity duty 11 crores. And then Nala charges 132 crores. Other taxes and duties 60 crores. So the total tax revenue in the state of Andhra Pradesh for the year 2019-20 as per revised estimates is around 57,000 crores. 57,000 crores is the tax revenue, own tax revenue. Is the own tax revenue in the state of Andhra Pradesh, out of which the lion's share is contributed by sales tax followed by state GST. And then the other important taxes, state excise, stamps and registration and motor vehicles tax. That's about the state's own tax revenue. And then let us see the non-tax revenues. Non-tax revenues of the state government. The contribution of the non-tax revenues to the state government not much. It is around 3,324 crores. And you can see very clearly the trend of decrease in the non-tax revenues. So 2017-18 actuals, it is 3,814 crores. You can see the increase as well as decrease. On 18-19 actuals, it is 4,396 and 2019-20 revised estimates 3,324. Then what are the components of non-tax revenue? The most important one is mines and minerals. So mines and minerals, from the mines and minerals, the revenue which is collected in the year 2019-20 revised estimates is 1,897 crores. And the next important is education and the medical and health. Medical and health 161 crores. Education 147 crores, forest 36 crores, interest receipts 36 crores, and others 1047. At least when a question comes on the tax revenues and non-tax revenues of government of Andhra Pradesh, at least to try to remember these components of tax revenue as well as non-tax revenue. Components of tax revenue as well as non-tax revenue. So at least you can write on the left hand side what all come under tax revenue, what all come under non-tax revenue, and you can roughly remember the tax revenue is around roughly 57,000 crores, out of which sales tax and state GST contribute a lot, lion's share, and then non-tax revenue it is roughly 3,324 crores. 3,324 crores. So difficult to remember the facts, but we have no other option but to mug up the things and repeat as many times as possible. It's possible if you discuss very frequently with your friends, asking questions to reinforce your memory. So what is the tax revenue, what is the revenue through which what is the revenue through so and so tax for the government of Andhra Pradesh? If you keep discussing with your friends, I think you can remember better. Thank you.